A man born in 1790 while George Washington was president had a grandson who was still alive last spring. Not a great-great-grandson. A grandson. 2 men, 1 ordinary family, and 235 years standing between them. That is not a riddle or a rounding trick. It is a receipt with names and dates, and by the time we are done, you are going to feel how short the rope actually is between you and a century you think of as finished and gone. The man born in 1790 was John Tyler, the 10th President of the United States, born the same year the country took its first census. He did 2 things that matter to us here. He lived a long life, and he became a father very late, at 63. That late son was Lyon Tyler, born in 1853. And Lyon grew up and did the exact thing his own father had done. He became a father again in old age, at 75, in the year 1928. That grandson was Harrison Ruffin Tyler. He died on the 25th of May, 2025, at 96 years old, a man who lived long enough to own a phone that fit in his pocket. So the whole distance from a founding-era president to the present folds down into 2 handoffs from a father to a son. But a family tree is a chain of blood, and blood is not the same thing as touch. So let me hand you touch. In the summer of 2020, the United States government was still mailing out a Civil War pension, $73.13 a month, going to a woman named Irene Triplett. The pension was her father's. Mose Triplett carried a rifle in the war that ended in 1865, and he was 83 years old when Irene was born in 1930. Sit with that. A man who fought in the 1860s bounced his own daughter on his knee in the 1930s, and that daughter kept answering her phone and cashing that check until the 31st of May, 2020. One father, one daughter, and the Civil War reaches its hand straight into a year you personally lived through. And Irene was not the last of them. There is a quiet registry, kept mostly by hand, of the last living children of Civil War soldiers. They call them the real sons and the real daughters, and there is a date written next to every name. The last Union real son, William Poole, whose father served in the 6th West Virginia Volunteers, died on the 8th of June this year. That is a few weeks ago. And as I compile this, one name on that list still has no death date beside it. Emma Jean Horton of Marshall, Arkansas. Her father, Jackson Carroll, rode with the 2nd Arkansas Cavalry in the 1860s. Her father, not some ancestor in an old photograph she never met. So if you shook Emma Jean Horton's hand, you would be one single handshake away from a man who watched the Civil War with his own eyes. That is the entire distance. One warm hand between you and a war in your history textbook. I should tell you what this looks like from where I sit. I have read the birth records and the obituaries and the letters people folded up and handed down. More of them than any one person could ever hold. And the thing that stops me is not the famous names. It is how few lives you have to line up end to end to cross what feels like an ocean of time. Here is the pair I line up most often. A girl in the town of Arles, in the south of France, once met a painter she remembered for the rest of her life as disagreeable and reeking of alcohol. She was 13. The painter was Vincent van Gogh. Her name was Jeanne Calment. She was born in 1875, and she did not die until 1997, at 122 years and 164 days, the oldest human being anyone has ever verified. So one pair of eyes that saw Van Gogh in the flesh in 1888 was also alive to see the Berlin Wall come down. One woman, one unbroken life. She carried both of those inside the same memory, and a great many people walking around today shook Jeanne Calment's hand before 1997, which puts you 2 handshakes from a woman who met Van Gogh, not 2 centuries away. 2 hands. This is the kind of finding I keep. I am compiling a running record of what turns out to be true about human minds and human time, and this entry already has a name. The arithmetic of touch. Here's what that arithmetic does to you once you can see it. The past is a rope. It is braided out of overlapping hands. It is far shorter than you were told, and you are gripping one end of it at this exact moment. Every long ago you were taught to picture as impossibly distant was, for somebody, an ordinary Tuesday. Somebody alive, on the day you were born, had shared a meal with somebody who fought in a war you can only read about, and the rope runs forward from your hand just as far as it runs back. A hand you shake this year will be shaken, decades from now, by a child who who will one day describe you to a grandchild alive in a year you cannot picture. You are a link in that chain, and you are load-bearing, and it runs in both directions farther than you will ever see the end of. Long ago is a lie your short memory tells you. The century you filed away has vanished as 2 or 3 warm hands away, and the miracle is that you can actually count them. That one goes in the file. Findings about human minds and human time, the arithmetic of touch, logged. Next entry, I want to know how far the rope runs forward. If a hand you shake this year can carry you into the next century, what is the longest message a single chain of living people has ever passed, hand to hand, on purpose, without dropping it? I am counting. The file updates whether you follow along or not.